Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Xenex podcast. Today, we are very pleased to introduce the Alex Delnik, CEO of Circularix, and it's going to be a very good conversation about manufacturing challenges from a leading CEO in the field. Alex, why don't we start with you introducing yourself and your company to our audience?
Yeah. First of all, I want to correct you. I'm not a CEO of the company. I'm executive of the company, one of the leaders of the company. But I'll be more than glad to introduce Circularix. Circularix is a manufacturer of recycled, PET. It's a polymer from which most of the beverage containers are made, and we're a leader in our industry. And we have a strong views on domestic manufacturing. It's what I'm would be glad to share with your listeners. And um, it is something that I believe is fundamental to the manufacturing industry in the U.S. and the reshoring as a way of restoring manufacturing capacity of the United States.
That's good. Well, Alex, let's start by talking about the fact that you operate in an environment that trust is earned through execution and not just messaging. How do you think about building confidence and resilience across manufacturing and retail ecosystem um, as scale increases?
I think manufacturing is a somewhat a unique uh, area of of the economy because it requires not only understanding of the manufacturing processes, but it's part of the service. So you need not only produce a quality product, but also make sure that your customer is happy with the quality, with the delivery, and that you maintain resiliency in your processes. I mean, the world is interconnected, and we've been uh, very successful in using global capacity over the last 30, 40 years. And as part of that process, we've outsourced a lot of the manufacturing per se, and a lot of the products, hardware is being outsourced and being offshored. And I think that provided for some efficiencies, specifically cost efficiencies, but it also created this paradigm where we lost control and to a certain degree lost resiliency of our economy in general. I'm not saying that we need to manufacture everything that we consume, but I think it's important to understand the value of manufacturing, retaining manufacturing capacity, especially in the industries that we consider to be critical industries to maintain um, proper functioning of our society. And I think that is something that's been going on over the last few years, understanding that we need to bring back some manufacturing, not all of it, some of it, and to a significant degree, its ability to maintain a resiliency of the supply chain, make sure that we're not subject to risk associated with loss of supply chain um, elements, whether it's uh, you know disruption of ocean freight or whether it's loss of critical ability to produce key elements of the equipment and key elements of the machinery that we use. I think it's very important to have control of that and to make sure that we are not subject to risks associated with outsourcing a lot of that capacity.
So it seems I'm hearing that the risk has evolved over time and the risk definition has changed. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, risk is always present, and but risk is evolving. It's absolutely true. If it's not only dollars and cents that we are trying to count when we calculate uh, what our structure of our economy should be. And again, I'm not a macroeconomist, and I'm looking at it from a point of view of my customers, what I hear from my customers, what they pay attention to. So a lot of what Circularix does is to provide um, our customers with quality product from which packaging is made. And a significant portion of what we do is to assure that we provide material, provide product that is an element of circular economy that would not only allow us to function independently or reducing supply chain risks, but also improving carbon footprint of our production. What we do, and maybe it's a good segue into what Circularix does, we make sure that packaging, plastic packaging, that is used for majority of food and beverage that is sold in American supermarkets on the shelf of our stores is produced without significant risk and without increasing carbon footprint of our production, because majority of packaging is using hydrocarbons, oil and gas to produce plastic. And what we do, we want to make sure that significant amount of that packaging is made of material that is recycled, that is um, waste is not going to landfill, waste is not going to pollute our waterways, and is not spreading waste throughout the country, but also not also, but instead is used to produce the same packaging. So to create significant element of circularity of circular economy, and we do it also domestically, which allows us to retain manufacturing jobs and to provide significant contribution to the reduction of carbon footprint and maintaining sustainability of our.
It's very interesting, and I like to kind of dig into that circularity and supply chain a little bit more as it relates to trust. Where do you think most organizations lose trust across the supply chain, communication, manufacturing, retail, operational risk? Where does that trust typically fail?
I think if you consider trust to be not necessarily a pure I trust what you say, I trust what you do, but more of a factor of reliability and making sure that whatever your suppliers or your customers are doing can be sure, can be forecasted, can be understood better to reduce delivery risk, to reduce supply chain risk. Uh, if that is an element that can be classified as trust, then I believe what Circularix is doing is trying to provide that reliability, that resiliency in the manufacturing sector, because what we do, what we supply to our customers is locally produced. So we significantly reduce supply chain risks. We significantly reduce risk of disruption uh, associated with events that are outside of our control, and it's all kind of localized. And in addition to reducing that risk, we also use domestic resources. We reduce waste because we utilize waste. So from that point of view, trust, from my point of view, is element of understanding what we do. So our customers kind of have full understanding, and as such, they may trust because they have full transparency in what we do, how we do things. We're absolutely open, to our suppliers and our customers, the ways that we do business. We are always transparent in the pricing structures. We are always providing the highest level of customer service, so they know if they call us 12, 24 hours a day, we can always answer. We can always, provide support. And I think that what builds trust and what builds confidence. We haven't lost a single customer, and it's one of the major KPIs that we're considering. It's a retention. So if we acquire a customer, and we try to keep the customer, and customer appreciates our service, the quality of our product. And I think that builds trust the way that we understand trust should be contained or should be used in their business relationship in the manufacturing sector, actually in any sector.
Yeah. Um, what do you think, and how do you think transparency play? What? How important is transparency and the role of transparency in maintaining credibility with customers and partners in general in the particularly as you're in the manufacturing industry? So how do you see that play out in the manufacturing industry?
Um, Transparency is extremely important in any business relationship. Um, I think that manufacturing, from my point of view, manufacturing is uh, is um, is critical to the functioning of the economy. We cannot outsource manufacturing completely. Certain sectors can be, of course, outsourced, but there are some key elements of national economy that have to be maintained. And what Circularix does, I believe, it's a key element that cannot be outsourced, even though it's we very often can't compete in certain elements of manufacturing related to costs, specifically, and we can't compete because our safety standards, manufacturing standards, environmental standards are more often, labor standards are more often, um, maybe even always, much stricter than similar standards in other parts of the world. But what we need to do, we need to consider those externalities as well. I mean, it may be cheaper today to bring material to produce it overseas in areas where much lower cost structure, but eventually, if we're considering potential impacts of outsourcing on the development of our country, on ability to retain key capabilities, I think it's very important. With regards to what Circularix specifically does, I mean, we use plastic waste, post-consumer plastic waste, as a feedstock, and I think it's very critical that avoidance of waste, reuse, or rework of that waste. I think it's an incredibly important part of retaining um, capabilities, manufacturing capabilities, and building ultimately what we want to do to build circular economy and retain that capability domestically to strengthen our manufacturing base and sovereignty of our country. So if we consider all the externalities, environmental externalities, and ability and value of retaining manufacturing capacity, I think that should be part of the consideration in selecting the proper way. Pure cost of production may not necessarily be the right way of evaluating options for our customers. And our customers actually were major brands, CPG companies. I think they understand, and the more and more emphasis is now placed on domestically produced material, because it's not only retaining manufacturing capacity or jobs, green jobs, valuable manufacturing jobs. It's also reduction of the carbon footprint of production, and I think that becomes an important part of the strategies of a lot of these companies who are our customers.
So let's look at supply chain and particularly technology and how technology is used in a manufacturing environment. Um, can you articulate about how, in general, you see manufacturing industry adopting? Of course, there's supply chain technologies. They've been around, and MRPs, ERPs, all of that. They've been around for a long time. But how does that impact um, uh, the business, the manufacturing business, particularly if you want to articulate about your own business, and how do you keep up with this fast-paced technological change that impacts every business, and how does that impact the manufacturing businesses such as yours?
I think that it is extremely important to understand technological enhancements and all the advancements that exist in both manufacturing per se and the supply chain. We do use our processes are highly automated, so we do use ERP to manage our production. We have real-time access to all the processing conditions. We monitor that. We reduce amount of waste. We don't wait until the end of the process to make sure that our product is has consistent quality. And one thing I was going to kind of mention is we have a unique type of manufacturing, unique in a sense that our feedstock is actually variable. We don't, because it's a post-consumer material, we use material that is not uniform. So our systems have to be very robust system and react to the variability of feedstock to make sure that we produce quality material. And from that point of view, technology is extremely important. It's not something you put, it's not a black box you put on one side and then at the end comes out and then you decide whether it's good enough or not. No, we can't afford to work that way. So we have several steps in our process where we monitor quality of the material and we adjust accordingly. And technology allows us to do that efficiently to make sure that yield of the quality production is high. And we've been able to achieve the highest possible, it's not highest possible, the highest industry quality of the product that we manufacture. It's been proven, it's been acknowledged by our customers. And part of it, of course, is the technology. We can't really do a lot of stuff manually. We operate very efficient, highly automated processes. We have full control throughout the process. And technology, ERP, or methods that we measure properties of the material in process. We're not waiting until the end. So we know before the material is produced, we, for all intents and purposes, assure quality of that. If we are not satisfied, we can either adjust processing conditions, or we can simply say feedstock is not good enough to produce quality, and we don't allow it to go through the whole process by saving costs and assuring that only the quality material is used to produce product that our customers enjoy or should enjoy using without impact on their own production.
Yeah.
So technology is critical. Understanding of the process is absolutely important. Automation is absolutely critical in assuring efficiencies, yields, usages, and all the parameters by which manufacturing processes are typically described.
So, taking it a step further, what do you think the impact of AI is in manufacturing, and let's say in your specific situation? What do you see is going to happen over the next 6 months, over the next 2 years, as this is becoming mainstream?
I think AI is going to have, or already having, profound impact on all facets of our life. It's not necessarily just manufacturing. With regards to specific manufacturing processes, AI is already a key element of what we do. AI is used to sort and separate feedstocks of materials for we use in our, not necessarily the segment that we operate, but whole value chain of our type of industry. I think using AI already, because it allows you to effectively assure quality. As I mentioned, that variability of input materials is a absolutely critical part of our industry and what we do. And the only reliable way to assure effective production is to make sure that we use as much feedstock as we can without jeopardizing quality of the final product. And that is not necessarily formulaic. It's not something you can put in algorithm and just simply follow the algorithm and assure. There's so many factors that you need a multi-dimensional assessment, and AI plays a significant role of that. It's a self-taught system that would observe trends, that would observe, will self-taught to determine or to find the contaminants that have to be removed, or levels of contaminants that can be tolerated. And I think it's already in place, and it's continued to be important. It's continued to improve the quality and efficiency of our production. AI is absolutely, again, is absolutely critical part of where we are going to as a society, and it includes manufacturing as well as other parts of our economy.
Yeah, I could see that because we are seeing as I interview different leaders, we're hearing a very similar theme across. But the example that you mentioned about finding that the mix that's not right, and it understands it and it fixes it, or as it learns, it's something that we also do in our own company. Um, let's talk about the security of the supply chain, because that's something that we've seen, and there's been many reports on severe breaches because of the supply chain weaknesses. What do you think are the areas of weakness and vulnerabilities across the supply chain in general, as you talk to your colleagues in the industry, as you read industry publications? Where do you think those vulnerabilities are?
I think that there are more elements of security. Security is kind of a very general term that includes multiple aspects of what we consider to be security. With regards to what we do, security of supply chain is basically ability to deliver uh, components of our production in time and what can impact security of that supply. For example, if we use some feedstock that comes with ocean freight from overseas, I think that ability to maintain an uninterrupted flow of that product, I think it's extremely important. We've had major disruptions over the last few years. COVID was a major disruption. Some conflicts that prevented flow of materials through Red Sea, through Panama Canal disruptions. It's a significant part of that. Also, we had such things as strikes at the East Coast ports that created disruptions. And I think it's a security of supply, and of course it impacts us. And the way that to deal with it is, of course, to develop resiliency, to develop onshore capabilities, to develop alternative supply uh, uh, chain elements. And I think it's extremely important for us to make sure that we understand. We've developed certain programs, certain steps to assure uninterrupted production for us. That is security that is critical for us to take into consideration. You know, availability of local material through local partnerships, storage, some security of our material that we store in case of interruptions. Those are all elements of security of our production. I think you probably have in mind another part of security. It's security of information associated with our production. So we protect that. We have systems that allow us to make sure that all the information exchanges, all the specific elements of our technological process are protected as well. And I think that is probably less of a concern for us because we don't use any truly proprietary technological processes. It's all what we do is an established process. We do have some minor some elements that include what's called tribal knowledge in terms of the production, but in reality, there's no what we do is not necessarily covered by significant intellectual property or patents or something that should be protected from a security point of view. But security of physical supply chains, I think it's very important to us, and I mentioned that's how we consider the proper way to deal with it.
Yeah, I hear you. And I've talked to other leaders in the manufacturing industry with, regarding IoT, right? And in many cases, the some of the older devices that are self-contained, they're and it's very difficult to actually maintain security on those, because if they're if they can get to them, if the hackers and bad guys can get to them, there's not an easy way to fix it. So the question becomes, have you seen manufacturing parts, components, tools that are susceptible and at risk, that could impact that supply chain that we're talking about, or the ability to manufacture, because some part can be actually breached and therefore impacted?
I, from from my point of view, and as it relates to what the company specifically does, we do not have significant risk of breach of individual components of our process, because all of our processes are kind of confined and they're protected, and we have access to each element from with standard protection that IT elements of our process include. So we have standard protection. Very often I cannot get emails to my inbox. If there is any chance that they can be infected, or there can be some risk. So we have very extensive systems that protect it. There is no access to our processing parameters on our lines, so there is no risk that somebody can come in. That is intercepted. The only way to change parameters is really through a certain process, through more than one access point. So from that point of view, we have state-of-the-art protection, security protection to our processes. Can somebody get access to what we do? I mean, no system is 100% proof, but I don't think that somebody accessing what we do would significantly jeopardize our standing in the industry, or would be a significant risk to our operations, because, as I mentioned, we use a process that's been approved, that's been widely known. So it's not something that we have to protect, because we are owners of that, to the point of not allowing anybody else to see it.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna wrap up with this last question, and it's about the future. What do you see the challenges for future growth? In general, you kind of talked about some of the um, global supply chain, and some of the you very much articulated what those challenges are. As you look into the future over the next 2 3 years, if you had a crystal ball, where do you think the manufacturing industry is headed, and what challenges do you think there are going to be along the way?
Wow, it's a big question. I think that there's no way to answer um, kind of concisely and um, fully to that question. There's so many elements of that theme that you just raised. I would say that the most important part, as I see it, is to assure that we fully recognize manufacturing industries that we believe are critical to retain, um, and to develop and to nurture, and to make sure that we have all the ecosystem of manufacturing in this country. I think that we've done a great job of outsourcing. Now we're trying to reshore manufacturing. I think it's a very important part. So we need to decide what exactly um, we need to retain domestically, what's considered to be critical, and then make sure that there is a viable economic model for that manufacturing that allows competition allows efficient production and allows us to retain that capacity and be leaders in the world. I think that where we probably should improve is to recognize what capacity we need to retain as a country, as an economy. Specifically, again, it's very hard for me to discuss every industry or all the industries with regard to what we do. I think what we do is key element of sustainable development. We need to make sure that we efficiently use our resources, and I think that in terms of the sustainable economic development, I think circular economy and building as close to truly circular economy as possible, I think is a key element of sustainable development. We believe that our company is an element of such development, and we want to grow. We are growing, but we want to grow more and make sure that it is recognized that what we do is an important element of sustainable development for the United States. And that we would like to retain that leadership position, improving efficiencies, and be as good as we can to produce material that is a key element of the economy for our customers, for brands, for CPG companies. And I think that is a key element. It should be recognition that it is important to retain that technological advantage and that domestic capacity that that is a key for us. And if and support, again, I'm not talking about subsidies. I'm talking about establishing level playing field. It's extremely important to understand what level playing field is for domestic manufacturing to be competitive. There are clearly certain things that we cannot match. We cannot match, labor costs. We cannot match energy costs, and we are in similar position very often as Europe is in. There's a lot of discussions in Europe on that very subject. But I think it's important to understand that we need to support companies who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to be a significant element of sustainable development and circular economy. And I think that that should be done to make sure that eventually we retain that competitive advantage and retain our economy as a robust economy that is effective, efficient, and really taking into consideration the whole gamut of all the elements that any developed economy should have.
Well, Alex, we've reached the top of our time for this podcast. I want to thank you for your great insight, sharing your experiences, particularly as it relates to your company and what you've seen out there in the industry. I'm sure our audience is going to enjoy it very much. Hopefully, we'll have in another episode sometime in the future. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.